Hello everyone and welcome to the Competitive Guide channel. Today we are going to learn about Chandrayaan 3, which is India's latest moon mission. August 23rd, 2023 is going to be remembered generations to come as India makes history, becoming the first nation to land on the southern pole of the moon. Now Chandrayaan 3 is being launched by India's space agency, which is ISRO. ISRO stands for the Indian Space Research Organization. Now Chandrayaan 3 is India's third moon mission. Before Chandrayaan 3, there were two more moon missions. Number 1 was Chandrayaan 1, and number 2 was Chandrayaan 2. Chandrayaan 1 Chandrayaan 1 was launched in the year 2008. It had only an orbiter, which was supposed to orbit the moon. Now if we consider this as the moon, the Chandrayaan 1 orbiter was supposed to orbit the moon and take pictures of the moon. Now these pictures, which was taken by the Chandrayaan 1, was instrumental in finding out traces of water on the surface of the moon. Whereas Chandrayaan 2 was launched in July of 2019. Chandrayaan 2 had two components. Number 1 was the orbiter, which was similar to Chandrayaan 1. It was supposed to orbit the moon and take pictures of the moon. And the second component was a lander along with a rover, which was supposed to make soft landing on the surface of the moon. But due to some technical glitches, this lander and rover never made soft landing on the surface of the moon. But the orbiter was a success, as it is still orbiting the surface of the moon and taking pictures of the moon. So Chandrayaan 1 was an overwhelming success, whereas Chandrayaan 2 was not an overwhelming success, it was a partial one, because the lander never made soft landing on the surface of the moon. That is why ISRO has launched its latest moon mission, which is Chandrayaan 3. Now the purpose of Chandrayaan 3 is to make soft landing on the southern pole of the moon. If we consider this as the moon, this would be the southern pole, this would be the northern pole, and this would be the southern pole. Chandrayaan 3 also has a lander and a rover, which is designated to make soft landing on the surface of the southern pole of the moon. Now as I speak of that, Chandrayaan 3 has already made soft landing on the southern part of the moon. Now let us try and understand what are the various components of the Chandrayaan 3 moon mission. Now Chandrayaan 3 moon mission has got a launch vehicle, which is LVM-3. LVM-3 has got three parts. Number 1 is two solid fuel strap-on boosters, as you can see in the pictures. Number 2 is one liquid fuel core stage, this one, and number 3 is a cryogenic upper stage, which houses the lander and the rover. As you can see in the picture, this red colored lander and rover is housed within the cryogenic upper stage. Now in the right side you can see in this picture, this is the lander. Below the lander you can see this part is actually a propulsion engine. What is the purpose of a propulsion engine? The purpose of the propulsion engine is to take the lander along with the rover to its designated spot. Now within the lander you can see there is a small robot which is a rover. The name of the lander is the Vikram lander, the Vikram lunar lander, and the name of the rover or the small robot is the Pragyan rover. Now what is the purpose of all this equipments? So this LMV-3 is the main rocket which would take the lander along with the rover from the surface of the earth to the surface of the moon. Once this reaches close to the moon, this cryogenic upper stage is going to detach itself from the rest of the body, and from within this cryogenic upper stage the lander along with the rover is going to make soft landing on the southern part of the moon. Once it makes landing on the southern part of the moon, the rover which is present in the lander module will come out from the housing and to the surface of the moon. The purpose of the Pragyan rover is to collect data about the surface of the moon. What is the chemical composition of the surface of the moon? What is the atmospheric composition of the surface of the moon? And also to find water on the surface of the moon. Well, now let us see from where Chandrayaan 3 was actually launched. Now Chandrayaan 3 was launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center. As you can see in the picture, this is Satish Dhawan Space Center. Now where is this located? This is located in Sriharikota, which is an island in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Now not only Chandrayaan 3 but all the space missions of India is actually launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center. Now the question generally arises as to why all the space missions are launched from this particular location of Sriharikota. Well, yes, there are certain reasons for that. Now let us understand those reasons. Number one is the proximity of Sriharikota to the equator. As you can see in the smaller map here, suppose Sriharikota is this red dot and this is your equator. Sriharikota is very close to the equator. Now the question arises as to what is the advantage of a location being close to the equator is for the launch of a vehicle. Yes, as you know that if suppose this is the Earth rotates on its own axis. As the Earth rotates on its own axis, it has got a speed of rotation, and all the objects which are present on the Earth rotates along with the Earth at a particular speed. Now whenever a particular object is thrown from the surface of the Earth outside, this object also gains a particular centripetal force. So this centripetal force is at its highest when it is closest to the equator. So, when a rocket is launched near the equator, the centripetal force of the rocket is at its highest. Now, what is the usefulness of the centripetal force? This centripetal force, it actually adds to the speed of the rocket. So, we have to choose a location which is actually closer to the equator so that the centripetal force of the rocket is at its highest and it adds to the speed of the rocket. So that is your number one reason why Sriharikota has been chosen. Well, let us understand what is the number two reason. Number two reason is the safety. Now, as you can see in the top right hand corner picture, Sriharikota is actually an island and it is quite some distance from the mainland. Now, whenever we are launching a satellite, there is of course a danger of explosion. There is a danger that debris might fall from the sky, and that is why we have to maintain some distance from the mainland where the majority population lives. Now, Sriharikota, being an island, is sparsely populated, and that is why the concern of safety does not arises. And let us try and understand the third reason. The third reason is the climate of this place. Sriharikota is present in Andhra Pradesh, in the southern tip of Andhra Pradesh. Now, this region experiences wet weathers or rainfall in only 2 months of the whole year, as a result of which we get around 10 months for space missions. So, the climate actually supports space missions because there is very minimal rainfall. Now, let us understand what is the fourth location. The fourth reason. The fourth reason is the location of this place. As I have already told, this is an island, Sriharikota. That is why any space missions require logistical support. Logistical support in the sense that these mega structures of rockets needs to be carried out, needs to be taken from the location of its build to the location of this launch, and the presence of water body here allows very easy access from the place of the build to the place of the launch. That is why location is very crucial, and all these four reasons have actually helped to select Sriharikota as the prime location of any space launch. So let us move on. Do you know the man in this picture? Yes, he is A. Somnath. Sridhara Panikar Somnath. He is the current chairman of ISRO. He has been the chairman since January of 2022. So under his chairmanship, Chandrayaan 3 has actually made soft landing on the surface of the moon. Let us not forget this person as well. You know who is this person? This person is K. Sivan. K. Sivan was the earlier director and chairman of ISRO. He was the chairman of ISRO from 2018 to 2022. Let us not forget that under his chairmanship, Chandrayaan 2 was launched. Although Chandrayaan 2 was not a success, but the orbiter is still probing the surface of the moon. Let us move on. Do you know Chandrayaan 3 is taking 41 days to reach the moon? Yes. In comparison, NASA's Apollo 11 arrived the lunar surface in just 4 days. Apollo 11 reached in just 4 days. Now, why is Chandrayaan 3 taking over a month to reach the moon? Here is why. USS Apollo missions, including Apollo 11, used a direct trajectory known as the translunar injection to reach the moon. The powerful Saturn V launch vehicle propelled the Apollo spacecraft into the Earth orbit, followed by a single engine burn that directly sent it towards the moon, enabling a swift journey within a few days. In comparison, Chandrayaan 3 will follow a different trajectory to reach the moon. The mission employs a series of Earth orbits and engine burns to gradually increase the spacecraft's speed and position it for the lunar insertion. This approach accommodates the use of a relatively less powerful launch vehicle, that is the GSLV Mark III, which possesses a lower payload capacity as compared to the Saturn V. Consequently, a more gradual trajectory was chosen to optimize the mission within these launch vehicle constraints. Actually, the Apollo 11 used a very powerful engine, and it had more fuel capacity as compared to that of Chandrayaan 3. Now that is why ISRO is using a very clever strategy to overcome these deficits. Moving in an elliptical path around the Earth, the Chandrayaan 3 will achieve a peak speed when it passes through the perigee, that is, the closest point to the Earth. Each time the spacecraft approaches the perigee, the engines will fire to increase its speed. A series of these pushes or firings in every orbit will push the module into higher and more elongated orbits. As you can see, a series of these firings will move Chandrayaan 3 to a more elliptical orbit. Now, as the journey continues, the module will eventually reaches an escape velocity. Which is required to break free from the Earth's own gravity. At this stage, the module's orbit elongates, setting its course towards the moon. Now, the timing of Chandrayaan 3 module entry into the lunar transfer orbit, this is the lunar transfer orbit, is meticulously planned to align with the moon's position in its own orbit, ensuring proximity to the moon's trajectory at the desired moment. Now, once the module reaches the intended point in the lunar transfer orbit, a precise maneuver called lunar orbit insertion will be executed to reduce the speed of the aircraft, allowing the moon's own gravitational pull to stable the lunar orbit. This successful lunar insertion marks a significant milestone, placing the spacecraft into the orbit of the moon. Following the lunar insertion, the module orbits the moon in an elliptical path. A series of maneuvers are again employed to gradually lower the module's altitude, placing it in a circular orbit approximately 100 kilometers. This would be around 100 kilometers above the lunar surface. Subsequently, the propulsion module will separate from the lander to land on the south pole of the moon. Moving on. As you can see in the picture, India will become only the fourth nation in the world to land a rover on the surface of the moon. As you can see in the picture, this green dot is Chandrayaan 3's landing site, and it is present in the south pole of the moon. The blue dot resembles the landing sites of US. The red dots resemble the landing sites of the Soviet Union, whereas these yellow dots represent the landing sites of China. So now India becomes the fourth nation to land on the surface of the moon and the first nation to land on its southern pole. Now, do you know what is the name which has been given to this place of soft landing? Yes, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stated that this landing site would be called as Shiv Shakti. This landing site has been named as Shiv Shakti, and as you know that Chandrayaan 2 had crash landed on the surface of the moon, which is also close to the Chandrayaan 3 landing site. Now this is the crash landing spot of Chandrayaan 2. This crash landing site has also been given a name. The name is Tiranga. Also, 23rd of August will be celebrated as National Space Day from now on. Right. Now, as you can see in the picture, these are photographs which has been taken by Chandrayaan 1 and 2. Now you can see some blue dots which are present in the picture. This is the south pole of the moon. Now do you know what is this blue dots? Yes, these are frozen water, and this is the main reason why Chandrayaan 3 has been launched. Chandrayaan 3 has been launched to land on the southern pole to go and find out these water which has been frozen and present in the southern pole of the moon. What is the importance of finding water on the moon? Yes, let us see why water is important in the moon. This will help in future moon missions. Why? Because we are planning to send humans in moon, and once we send humans to moon, they require water to survive. Also, in the future, moon will act as the base for further space missions, and At that time, water would be one of the most crucial resources. That is why the space, or rather to say the race to the southern pole of the moon, has already begun with India landing on it. Now, countries like Japan, the USA are also launching moon missions and sending their rovers to the southern pole of the moon. That is all for today. Cheers to India's success of Chandrayaan 3. Thank you for watching this video. For more contents, please subscribe to our channel, The Competitive Guide.